I got a little ahead of myself here on this tread before I made this video. I actually started sanding it down with my sander over there and took all of the polyurethane off and got it down to the finish of the wood. Some stain came off also, and it's looking pretty good. Even did the nose here, as you can see. On the back side, had a lot of glue and so forth on the bottom of the tread. All I did there was sand this down to make it relatively flat. You're never going to see that, and we'll just put some more glue on the bottom of that and then fasten it to the top of the stair, so we won't even see that. The next thing to do on this is to fill in these holes here that you see with my favorite pink wood filler that I showed in previous videos. We'll fill all those in, let those cure, and then we will sand all this down, and then we will be ready to put some stain on it. I need to find a stain that will match the existing hardwood floors that are in bedroom number 2, which is daughter number 1's bedroom, and match it as close as possible. I've got a couple of wood stains here already from previous jobs. This is a Jacobine, and this is an English chestnut. This is probably going to be pretty close to it, but we're going to test those out on some scrap pieces of wood that I have sitting in those buckets over there, just to get a close match to that. If they don't match, we'll head to the big box store, pick up 2 or 3 other ones of those just to get them close to match. What you'll find in the big box stores is the colors that are on their sample pages aren't exactly close to what is actually going to be the finished product. If I remember correctly, they end up being a little lighter once they start to cure, so I have to be a little bit careful of that. But we'll figure all that out. So anywho, I'm gonna go back and put some pink stuff in there. I'll show you that in a little bit, and see you at the next one. We've got our wood filler here, our plastic wood, it's pink, and we're gonna do the same process that we did last time. Get a little bit on your fingertip and just start filling in these holes like this, right? And we wanna make sure that these get filled really nice. Check that out. Have to grab a little bit more here. It's like really thin Play-Doh. Then it cures the color of this wood on top here, which is really nice. And just got to go through and just fill all those in. You can be a little bit liberal here, because again, we're going to sand all this down and make sure that these are all filled in correctly and smooth out. And if I have to add a little more, I can certainly do that to get to the smoothness and the look that I want to get out of this. So I'm just going to fill in a few more here. There's not a lot of shrinkage with this. It's very resistant to that. So we should be in pretty good shape by the time this all cures by tomorrow morning. If you notice, I closed the garage door. It is dark out there, and our lovely cicada bugs are getting into the garage. And you can see you got some flying critters in here also. See if you can see him. As I digress, you can certainly hear him. Well, he disappeared. But anyways, we'll get him later. Anywho, that should cover it for everything I need to fill in on these holes here. You can see it's already starting to cure. If you look at around the perimeter, it's already starting to get that color of the wood here. And that's what we want. So tomorrow we will sand all this down. I have finished sanding down the holes that were originally here from the nails. You can see they're filled in here. We're going to test some stain here on some scrap pieces of wood, as I mentioned earlier, and we're going to see how this looks, and if it's very close to the stain here, we're going to be in good shape. If not, we are taking a trip, as I've said before, to the big box store. When I get the stain on, these are still going to be noticeable. And I don't know of any way around that to make that more natural. It's just a product of when you put holes in wood and try to fill them, this is the end result. But I'm hoping that with all the stain that's going to go on there, it'll kind of darken it up and you really won't notice it when you're walking up the stairs. I'm also going to use a polyurethane to put on the top of it. Typically when I build furniture or other pieces of wood that I make something out of, I typically use like a gloss finish, and this wood does not have, or the floors rather, do not have a gloss finish on it. So what I'm going to end up doing is it'll probably be a satin or maybe even a matte, and we'll see how that looks just to match what this is. Plus with a gloss finish, it will probably be a bit more slippery if you are walking on it with socks, and we certainly don't want that either. So we will most likely just make it a satin or a matte. So I've got this English chestnut. We're gonna try that first. It does look a little dark, but as I stated before, once you get this stuff on the wood, it usually lightens up a little bit. So we're just gonna take some cotton here. It's always a good idea to keep old t-shirts, especially white ones that get torn or anything. Just rip them up in this small strips, and then you can make your fabric to spread stain with onto your wood. So I usually keep a few of those around, especially my paint ones. After they get really nasty, I can cut them up. These happen to be bought from the store though, like a bag of rags or something like that, but your cotton t-shirts will certainly work for that. Anywho, let's go ahead and try this. So we're just gonna dip a little bit in here, and then what I'm gonna do here is put the phone down so we get a good view of what that's gonna look like. And let's see what it looks like here. And actually this is looking really good now that I'm looking at it. Put a little more on. Now this is pine that this is going on, so it is going to look a little different than this piece of tread that I have here, because the tread, I believe, is oak, which soaks it up a little. It's a hardwood, it soaks it up a little differently, so we'll get a little more stain in there, or have to add a little more. So that's what that's going to look like. That's pretty decent, and if we compare the other one to it, that's fairly close. If you look at the dark spot in the center there, right here, and compare it to this piece of wood, which is the flooring, that's really close. So I don't believe we need to take a trip to the big box store to fix this. I have started staining the bottom side of the tread just to make sure that we are on the right color. And from what I'm seeing here, it is looking really good. Once I get this done here, I will show you what I mean by that. Get all that on there. And you can see the oak has a much different texture and highlights than this pine does. The pine really soaks it in because it's very porous. So it gets in deeper, which means the wood is exposed a little more. With the oak here, much more dense, so the stain sits a little bit more on top of the wood, and you get this rich color that comes through when you apply the stain. So let's take a look at our piece of wood here. And it's not totally the same color, but we're going to stain it anyways and see where we end up. It should be pretty close once it dries, at least I hope it is. And if not, we'll go with a darker, we'll add another layer of darkness onto it. I have finished putting all of the stain on for this top tread, and it matches real close, as you can see in the image here, to the hardwoods that are going to be going up on the hallway. So I'm really pleased with what we did there. We ended up going with the English chestnut first, realized that was a little bit too light. And then I had this can of, it's called Joko bean, I think it's called, or Jaco bean. And that's a darker, as you can see on the stick there, compared to the chestnut. However, when it goes on the wood, it lightens up a little bit. And once I started putting the first coat down, I immediately realized that this was going to be a closer match. And I'm glad I had that one laying around. But again, looks really, really close to what's going to be on the hardwoods up there. And I think it's going to look fantastic when it's that top tread. So we're going to put some polyurethane on this. I picked up some oil-based polyurethane to put on the top here. And it's this one right here. The reason why I went with an oil-based is the water-based version of that was like $11 for that little bitty can. This was $6. So I said, you know what? I've got plenty of time. I'm just going to put the oil base on. I think I'm only going to need like 1 or 2 coats. We'll let it cure and then we'll be done with it and it'll be done. But I just I could not justify spending $11 on a small can like this. It was ridiculous. Anywho, that's what we're going to do. And we'll finish this one up and we will show you the finished product very soon. I have finished the final coat of the polyurethane and the stain on the top tread here. It's looking great. As you can see, the difference in color and tone between the top tread and the treads of the stairs are quite significant, which is what we wanted to do, right? And if we match the existing wood, hardwood floors that are going to be up here against that, that's really close. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out. So it's going to look really cool when all this is up here and it's going to be consistent. The only thing that's a little different here is the polyurethane that's on the top is satin and it still gives off a little bit of a sheen. And the hardwood floors are more flat. Not a big deal. These will probably wear down a little bit anyways. And I sanded them down just to take some of the sheen off. There's 3 coats on there, so there should be pretty good durability there. But we're gonna tap this into place after I get some felt underneath this, and then I'll nail these down and that'll be the base starting point for the rest of the hardwood floors up here. I have completed attaching the tread to the top of the stairway here. Looks absolutely great. And it went in pretty nice. The felt paper is also underneath, as you can see. That should prevent any creaking from this piece of wood. I didn't glue it on like it was before. What I ended up doing is I put some nails with my compressor and my nail gun here on the edges, because you're not going to see those once the molding covers that up. And then I also did is put nails on the inside of the top tread here, because those match pretty much what you do on your hardwood floors when you put them up against here and you put your cleats in on the side here. So it really kind of matches that. And what that has helped me do is prevented me from having to put nails on top of the tread and then have to go back through and finish those and make it look ugly. So we're kind of hiding those on the edge there. I do have to take a nail punch and punch those in a little further, and that way the edge of the hardwood floors will go right up against that and we should be good to go. So that's where we stand with this, and we're gonna close this one out because that top tread is complete. So with that being said, peace out.